Welcome, everyone, to this TechCast. I'm Charlie Berger. I'm your host for today's Analytics and Data TechCast, which will begin immediately following this brief introduction. Briefly, my background, I'm associated with both Oracle as a product manager for Oracle Machine Learning and also as a co-founder of the BIWA user community, where I work with a number of great, hardworking individuals who run our annual Analytics and Data Summit, which is coming up February 25 through 27 out in Santa Clara, California. Please join us for that. More information on the website. But also these bi-weekly TechCasts that we do. And today, we're going to have a great speaker for our TechCast, two great speakers, actually. We have Dan Vlamis, CEO of Vlamis Software Solutions. I've known Dan for years. He's a very talented expert, Oracle expert, I think Oracle Ace Director and above. And he's going to be joined by Fasahat Aziz, who's a consultant with Vlamis Software Solutions. And together, they are going to be telling us about what's new in Oracle Analytics Cloud version 105.4.0, after which we'll have a brief Q&A. So what you can see on the slide here is where we post everything. So afterwards, you can come back here and see the recordings. You can see, download the slides and the presentations. Just looking ahead a little, looking ahead a little bit, in 2 weeks' time, I'll actually be presenting something called The Changing Role of the DBA from Database Developer to Data Scientist in 6 weeks. I hope you can join us for that. The speakers, Dan Vlamis and Fasahat, their speaker and contact information is in the presentation. All this is being recorded and will be posted on this page following the TechCast, along with the PDF. And so the idea of these TechCasts is that everyone has knowledge, expertise, tips and tricks to share. They're all encouraged to submit their own TechCast abstract proposals, and then what we do is we pull off what we think are the best of the best to share with others, and we'll get you slotted in here. Now, one of the things we've also done recently is made the decision that if you do submit a TechCast and you get accepted and you deliver a TechCast, then what we do is we give you a free registration pass to our annual gathering at the Analytics and Data Summit, February 25, 26, and 27 out in the Santa Clara campus. So with that, I will introduce Dan and Fasahat to give us the great talk. Dan will do an introduction of himself, as will both of these guys will, and take it away, Dan.
Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate the opportunity to present to you all as part of the Analytics and Data TechCast series. Just a brief background on who we are. This is Vlamis Software, founded over 25 years ago, developed all sorts of Oracle BI and analytics systems. We specialize in something called analytics and analytic warehousing with multiple ACEs on board. I'm an Oracle Ace Director, and you can find more information on Vlamis.com about us. We're also authors of the book on data visualization for Oracle Business Intelligence, and we're also creators of the force-directed graph plugin on the analytics library. You see a picture of that down on the screen. I'm joined here by one of our consultants, Fasahat Aziz. Thanks for joining us, Fasahat.
My pleasure. Hi, everyone.
If I get through the presentation quick enough, we'll be able to incorporate some of the stuff that Fasahat has done in terms of showing some of the home screen capabilities. This is in a series of TechCasts or webcasts that we've been doing on all the major releases of Oracle BI going back to 2011. So we're in this, you'll find a list of them at vlamis.com/OA webinars. And you'll see that we're on, we gave one 2 days ago on OAC 105.4 new features. And today we're going to be talking about the new features in 105.4 for today. By the way, we're going to be really only talking about the new features in Oracle Analytics Cloud, the latest release. If you want to see a more general purpose introduction, there's one from March of 2019 where we gave kind of an introduction to OAC running on top of the Autonomous Data Warehouse. That's meant to be more of a general purpose, quick OAC demo if you're looking for that. All right, so then you do have the ability to ask questions. There should be a Q&A or chat button. If you put in questions, we'll try to address those as we go along. And this is the list of different webinars that we have in there that you can communicate. So getting into the meat of the material, this is kind of serves as our home screen of all the different features. We may not have a chance to demo all of this live today, but the goal is to do all of the stuff in green in a live demo after we go through kind of the general what's new in the release via PowerPoint slides. It's a little faster to get through. If we don't make it through all of these, you can look at a webinar that we recorded 2 days ago that went longer, and so we were able to demonstrate more areas, but we're going to try and pack as much into this half hour, maybe going over it a little bit as we can. This is the list of features. You'll see that some of them are in the area of self-service analytics, some are in the search and ask area. Then in DataFlows and DataPrep, there's some new things with importing and exporting data flows and some new capabilities to split a column, that type of thing. Some new things in. Interesting enough, the slide that I got from Oracle calls this OA publisher, as opposed to those of us that have been doing this a long time think of this as BI publisher. That's part of Oracle's attempt to rebrand everything in the BI area as Oracle Analytics, and you'll see that more and more. Also some new features in data sources and security and administration. And by the way, there's a playlist for this on bit.ly OAC 5.4 features that will go through and show you demos of a lot of these features, not all of them, but you can look at them. Oracle makes a very nice playlist on YouTube available on that. So with that, let me jump into some of the meat of the content. Now in OAC 5.4, we have a unified home page. So now, whereas previously you had a classic home page where you could get at your answers and dashboards information, and then the new stuff, the new home page is where you did your data visualization. Now the classic and answers stuff is available via the new home page, and that kind of starts to take over. We'll go through a little bit, but now on the sidebar, instead of it saying just projects, it says catalog. You'll see that in our demo. And within, you can search, and Fasaha hopefully have a chance to show this. There's a search capability for searching through all of your projects, dashboards, analyses, and so forth. So there's a very nice search interface that's blended with natural language processing, kind of the BIASC capability to do this. We also have now the ability to copy and paste visualizations and finally entire canvases across projects. In the screenshot, you can see this original project has this discount by country, and that canvas gets copied to a totally new project. That new project has a different color scheme, different color palette, and it automatically inherits that color palette. Just be aware of that when you copy them over. You're getting the new color scheme, not the old one, if you will. When you copy and paste stuff, the data sets come along with that. It's kind of a smart paste, not just a dumb paste of the canvas. Also the calculations, any calculations you put in there, any filters, they're copied during that copy and paste operation. One thing to point out is that that copy and paste works within an instance, not across OAC instances. So if you want to bring it across OAC instances, you still have to go through the export out a project, import in a project via a DVA file. But this is nice. This starts to change the whole way we develop projects. I don't know if you run into this, you all have run into this, but when I'm developing something without this capability, there's a tendency to create lots and lots of canvases because I could never get the stuff within a canvas over. Now I can actually develop, keep stuff clean, and have extra projects. It's especially an issue because the canvases all show across the bottom of the screen, and if you have too many, it's hard to keep track of them. Now I can throw all the stuff in a junk drawer project and then get the stuff back into my clean project. That's how I organize this presentation itself. We also had the ability to customize the fonts in a canvas. I can't beat up Oracle on this anymore. But we can customize the fonts for text labels, legends, all sorts of stuff, the data tables and so forth. You can make this stuff really ugly if you want, but it does allow us to now control the fonts, font size, all that type of stuff in here. On graphs as well as tables, a very welcome feature on this. We have the ability now to right-click on a forecast and change the grain of a forecast. Assuming you have a time dimension, you have something like ship date, quarter, hopefully we'll demo this, and show this. You can change the grain of the forecast to be just to a monthly forecast as opposed to a quarterly forecast, that type of thing. In the area of maps, every release of OAC improves the mapping capabilities. We have the ability to see what was heretofore buried from us when there's an ambiguous type of point. Before, you could not tell why it was being hidden on the map. Now they've exposed that via right-click location matches, and OAC reports the data records that did not match any map layers metadata. And if it's ambiguous, it doesn't know where that is, it won't show up, and you can at least find out now why it didn't show up. We'll show you an example of that. Geometry now is a fully developed, fully supported data type in the RPD file, and it will also handle logical spatial functions. In this example, we have a geometry distance calculation that is the start minus the end, or the end minus the start, and it'll tell you the distance between those. That actually gets function shipped down to the Oracle database, whether it be the ADW or the Oracle database, and that way it's a fast calculation as opposed to it being done in the middle tier. There's a new area of functions, geometric functions, that you can code in here to specify that. We now have also the ability to explore something as a project as opposed to just regular explore that brought up answers or edit and analyze. We now have the ability to explore a visualization that was built with answers and dashboards. You can explore it in DV, which brings up the DV interface. There's some limitations in this. It doesn't bring everything over, and I'll hopefully have a chance to show you that in this. It'll also, every release, they improve kind of the machine learning capabilities. One of them in this release is the ability to recognize plurals and autocorrect searches in here. If you search for sales and profit by top 10 cities, and notice cities is misspelled, it'll still recognize that. Welcome enhancement. We can now export and import data flows. So as the ability to create data flows, think of it as a mini ETL tool that extract, transform, and load tool that end users can use. Now they can be exported out and used in a brand new project. So now when you export, you can export a data flow, and then when you import, you see it as import project/flow. And you can bring that into different OAC instances. Be aware, by the way, I ran into this, that when you import in the current release a data flow that refers to a source data set or a target data set, it seems to want to replace that data set with the one coming in from the DVA file, even if you did not include the data. So it wipes out your data. Just be careful. My point is, be careful when you're experimenting with this stuff that you back stuff up, because the behavior may not be exactly what you expect. You can now split columns in a data flow or a data prepare. We'll hopefully have a chance to show this where we have a full name and we want to split it between first and last name. There's a split wizard that allows us to do that. We can also trim spaces, and there's tooltips in the data flow, so you can trim off trailing spaces, that type of thing. We also have the ability to, when you import a data file, I don't know if you guys have run into this, but when you import a data file, you may get something from a European source that uses spaces to separate thousands characters, or it may be periods instead of what we're used to in the US as commas. We can now specify the separation character in a CSV file as well as the thousand separator and the decimal separator. Hopefully I'll have a chance to show that. We're now able to handle more encrypted data sources and enable SSL for Apache, DB2, and SQL Server and other sources as well. There's Kerberos authentication on various different connections, and if you have a zip file with your client credentials, it will inspect that zip file and fill those things in for Kerberos type connections. There's also, be aware, a change to the top level URL. This is Oracle's attempt to rationalize the way the URLs are handled, and now everything is under /UI/DV, for instance, instead of just /dv. The old URLs still work for now, but especially as you are using APIs to control stuff, you should be using the new URLs. They're trying to standardize this, and all this gets a little complicated on the exact deployment that you're using. So just be aware of it, that's in the process of changing to try and standardize this across really all the Oracle products. There's now also remote data gateway support for some additional tier 2 sources, those being Impala, Apache Hive, Spark, and MySQL. And this remote data gateway, by the way, we talked about this in the previous release, is being used more and more by Oracle instead of the remote data connection, the old way of connecting. Remote data gateway is going to replace eventually RDCs, and everything's going to be remote data gateway. It's a more secure way of handling all of this and better for sharing connections. We can now use OCI storage when we replicate data, so we can replicate that and configure your external storage to include an OCI object storage connection. And we have a PBCS connector using an RPD file and some enhancements in that, support for attribute dimensions, additional properties and columns, all that type of stuff. And it's really especially for sourcing from Oracle EPM Cloud 1908 and better. In Publisher, there's some NSSL enhancements for additional data sources to go against web services and HTTP type of connections. And there's also the ability to use the REST APIs with Publisher to schedule. You can manage REST APIs, normal scheduled jobs or bursting jobs. And so you'll see that in the documentation, and the slides are included. We'll have the slides, by the way, up there in the link. It's also available in the recording. We can also, with Publisher, handle mandatory parameters. So those will have a star next to them, and that says that, hey, we've got to have that parameter, otherwise we're not going to run that type of job for both online and scheduled reports. With that, let me jump into showing some of this live. I always like to show it live. It frankly shows better than just marching through slides. So let me show you a little bit of what's in the home page now, and take this over a little bit. So now in the Oracle Analytics home screen, I'm bringing up, this is an example of what the home looks like. So I've got this, if I bring up the hamburger menu now, on the left side, this used to say projects. Now it says catalog. Otherwise, it's basically the same. So now you can get at your entire BI catalog instead of just your projects via the new home. The projects are still there. We have this project and reports, data, recent data sets, favorite projects, machine learning, that type of thing. And you can get at all this. You can see here the projects, dashboards, and reports, data sets. And as well, by the way, the classic home page is still available. And so I can go and bring up the old style classic home page and look at that within my instance and look at all the dashboards and reports and so forth. So that's what we're looking at within here, the classic home page. And part of the demonstration that I showed before, just know, rather than taking the time here, if you bring up the classic home in here and look at that, we can get at all the dashboards. It's the same dashboards you're used to in here, and I can go in and run the sample dashboard, see that, and I can also explore some of this top performance based on revenue. I can explore that as a project. Rather than taking time to that, I wanted to give Fasahat a chance then to showcase a little bit of what we can do with this home page. So let me come back here, back to the home, and turn things over to Fasahat. Show us around this.
Thank you, Dan. So Oracle has changed the interface, and it's now a much cleaner and organized outlook that you have. And I think it's a welcome change. And one of the few important things that I wanted to show you is that you have headings like projects and dashboards, reports, and data sets all nicely stacked. So you don't have to go through the clutter. The very interesting thing about this is that it can be customized as well. So if you click on the hamburger menu on the top right, and there is a option of customize home page, and if you open it, you can see that all the headings are listed over here, and it could be moved with this movable option. So these are tiles that you can move up and down as per your preferences. So if you want your projects to be on top, you can just drag and drop it, and the projects will be on the top. How you want to see it could be customized using, like, it could be a mosaic tiles, or it could be a listing, and depending on your preference that you want to have. So this is one very nice thing that Oracle has incorporated. The other thing that I wanted to highlight is the search capabilities, and this is indeed one of the most important update that Oracle has done. So if you click on the search bar, you'll see in the drop down all the menus, and for example, let me show you an example of sales by order priority. So when you search, you can see there are two options. You can actually go to the project, or you can see the data visualization. So since this OAC is becoming huge on data visualization, so you are given an option of selecting directly the visualization. So this way, the executives don't have to go through the projects, and just in one click away, they can have the information that they want, and there is nothing better than a visual representation of your data. So this is one thing. The other way is that if you, for example, search for anything in the search bar, you can actually, let's say, for example, you want to see your data sets, and if you click it, you can just have a mosaic, or you can switch to the listings, which is usually a lot of people are used to, and you can sort by types as well, like different types will be clubbed together. So I think this feature is very nice. So due to shortage of time, I think I'll hand over to Dan.
Okay. Thanks for taking us through that, Fasaha. I do want to make sure I get to some of the other stuff, so let me come back here to my home page, and I'll show you some of the other stuff that's in here. There's more in the Ask capability to search through stuff, but I'm going to continue on in the interest of time. If I bring up then my demo, and I have several, you'll see projects in here as I explore through this, but bring up my demo of some places where I have stuff. One of the things is the ability to change the fonts on here. So I've got a pivot table demo. I've just got a very simple pivot. I've enabled totals on here, and if I come in and I'm going to expand this pane area where you look at the various areas, click on my pivot table, and then I can change the font of the title, for instance, to 20-point font, and that title up here changes. I can then go and change the specific font. If I want to change this to Comic Sans now, I can do that. It's one of those fonts that you're never supposed to use. You incur the wrath of the internet when you use that. Maybe I'll get some flames on my Twitter account by showing how you can use Comic Sans. Anyway, so you can change all of those. You can change the legends, the background color, really kind of everything that you would expect in here. I can change the fill color. Notice it's pretty sensitive to that. We only have it over just a little bit. You can even change the transparency on this and change how transparent the background. As well, you can change this, instead of a color, you can have an image. Frankly, some of this stuff can be used to make ugly dashboards instead of good dashboards. If we come over here, we can change to turn on and off various value and column headings, turn those on and off. You see that changing in the table. And I can come in here and change the header fonts in this, and maybe I want to bold my headers, and perhaps I want to change the data and underline all the data values and change the colors, for instance, of the totals. And this is where we kind of need to now establish some best practices as to what we can do with the new interface is the best way to display this. As I said, you can make it ugly. The whole goal was to make this stuff easy to use, not have to specifically customize, even down to changing the font of the individual product category. I can go and change that, the totals on here, to a different color indeed still. and then it's a little bit of how far do you want to go with this stuff. We can also change the graph font on here. I have an example here. If I make this thing full screen, maybe I don't want to show every other column in here. And now it's January, March, May, July. I want to show every single one. I can change I can even try and get rid of the Explore pane. It still doesn't show up. If I want to show them, I can go in here and change the axis label and change the font, for instance, to 8-point. And all of a sudden now I got January, February, March, April, May, and so forth. So we finally have control over the individual font, although in some ways it gets so small that it's hard to read. But at least we have the choice now of doing that. In the forecast grain, we can come in here and look at this graph shows forecast at a quarterly level, designed it that way, and if we click on the city, actually the city will change. If I want to look at that for Burlington, I can look at a forecast for Burlington, and the graph automatically changes. That's because this is set as a filter to this, or back to Buenos Aires. If I then want to change what level the graph is at, if I come in here and specify and drill down on ship date and drag the month, this is what's new, the ability to change. Oops, I got to turn on my Explore pane. Turn this guy back on, and if I drag month over here, I can change to, instead of a quarterly forecast, I can now change a monthly forecast. Previously, you had to forecast at the grain at which the data lived. Now we can use basically any higher level of the time dimension to graph on. So that's a welcome new feature. We have the ability within a map to be able to see for a map. We have a map of the U.S. here, and I have all sorts of cities listed here. And you can see if I hover over, for instance, Philadelphia in here, find that guy, or down here, if I come down and click on Philadelphia, it'll highlight the associated map. That's because these are two visualizations on the same canvas. They're automatically linked by default. And if I click on San Francisco, you can see, well, there's actually no dot for San Francisco. That thing is actually Sacramento. And if I hover over, you can see the numbers. By the way, this was introduced in the previous release. You can see we have a tooltip for quantity ordered, sales, and discount. And that's why that appears as measures for that. But San Francisco isn't there. We can try and figure out why. And if we edit that, if we choose that and choose location matches, it'll show us what the issues are with our data right now. So we have a lot of these with multiple matches. And you'll see San Francisco, well, there's also a San Francisco in Argentina. And it doesn't know because all we've given it for this is the city column. If we come up here, and by the way, Philadelphia is listed in here as well as partial confidence. Philadelphia only has 67% confidence. It may think we're talking about Paraguay. But if we come up here and add the city underbar country, that's the country for each city, which, by the way, we were able to do by enhancing the data in the Prepare tab. It gives you suggestions for stuff. And if we then drag that country for each city, now it has a better sense of which San Francisco we're talking about. And when it draws the map, you'll see the dot appears for San Francisco now, yay, because it knows San Francisco in the United States. In the same way, we should add a state column as well, and some of those ambiguous matches will go away. If we then, one of the things we can do, by the way, real quick in here, we can change in the layers. If we come in here and change the layer type instead of point, if we make it a cluster, it'll automatically cluster our various cities and that's dynamic as I zoom in and out. It'll do that as well as a heat map capability. All right, so that just gives you a sense of some of the capabilities in the map in here as well. If I want to import a new data set, come in here. Well, let me show DataFlows. I don't have time to show the whole import data set. Don't save that. If I then come in here and, well, I'll just show you real quick what it looks like. In data, if I create a new data set in here, I've got a list of data sets, and if I drag my data set in here for tab separated European, I'll just do the shortcut on here and show you what this looks like. I can now specify, this is actually a tab separated file. I use that because it has commas in it. If I want to specify, notice that profit 10.1 is 10, 1. This is common in the Europe. So if I come here, I can make that, instead of the default of a comma, I can make that a period. It sets the decimal separator to a comma, and now it correctly imports that data. If I add this, trust me, if I add this, it'll come in as data, and then I can do calculations based on that. In the other demo, I showed the full demo of that and how it contrasts with the US. If I come in here and show now the list of data flows, so let's come in here and look at the flows. Data flows, I can export those. So here are my data flows, and I can right-click on the split customer name. By the way, if I open this one, you'll see this is how you can split on a different column. If I come in here, I can see I'm splitting a customer name into first name and last name. You see those columns added in here, first name, last name. I can run that data flow, and it will automatically take that data set and split one column into two. If I come back and don't save that data flow, I can then show you how I can take this and export. This is what's new. That export data flow will export that out into a DVA file, and then I can come in here and import a flow or a project and bring those in. And that's what you can use for moving those data flows back and forth. With that, I think that's mostly what we had time for in this shortened version of this. I wanted to give a sense of that, and we come back to the slides. A couple things. The Oracle Analytics library is available there, including, by the way, our force-directed graph plugin is out there under plugins or examples. And there's some great sample projects and some great demonstrations that are in there, by the way. All you do is Google Oracle Analytics Library. It'll come up. And I do want to make sure I plug our upcoming conference on the Analytics and Data Summit, all analytics, all data, no nonsense. It takes place at the end of February on Oracle's campus in Santa Clara, just down the road from their main headquarters. And you'll find more information on analyticsanddatasummit.org. With that, let me open things up for questions. Just a quick plug also for our TechCasts. You should be able to see if you go to the TechCast page. By the way, I'll show you real quick since it's our browser up here. This is what that looks like. Go to Analytics and Data Summit /TechCasts, and in there you can see the upcoming list, and join Charlie for his upcoming TechCast on November 21st, and there'll be others that take place in December. And indeed, we ask that you submit your own abstract. We'd love to have you present on this as well. And you can see some of the excellent TechCasts. Their videos are here. Soon, this TechCast will be available with the slides and the video in here. We keep on adding them each time. So would love to answer any questions you may have. You can put them in the chat box. We'll leave this line open for a little bit, but Charlie, I'll turn things back over to you if you're still on.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Great TechCast, guys. Yes, everyone, if you could put your questions in the Q&A area, that's the best way to do it. I have a couple of questions that have come in. I'm just going to kind of go through those real quickly, Dan, just to kind of save you a little bit of time here. The one I thought was a great question. What's your favorite new feature in the new release?
For mine, let me look at the list real quick. Let me come back here because I spend all my time doing this.
It has to be maps and the search capability.
Okay, the maps and the searching is very cool for doing stuff. I would say my biggest one, Charlie, has got to be the DV fonts, just because I have really riddled the Oracle product management people on that. The ability to do that now answers that question of why can't you control the fonts. So that's probably my biggest.
Okay, great. And All right, a couple of suggestions there, I guess. Also, the next question I see on the list here is sort of about upgrading. How hard was it to upgrade?
It wasn't hard at all. It really was, well, first of all, you should know that on the Oracle Managed Cloud, that upgrade happens automatically for you. So if you're moving from 105.3, when 105.4 shipped, within about 3 weeks, it automatically changed to 105.4, and everything just happens. And I'll tell you a little behind the scenes for everybody there. Oracle actually upgrades these behind the scenes, and occasionally something doesn't upgrade and they roll back to the previous release. You don't even know it because they're using a test instance, and that's the whole concept behind this. So that was very easy. Now, if the question was about upgrading from OBIEE up to OAC, where you have to move stuff up to the cloud and so forth, then it's a little more involved. You have to upload your RPD file, but actually we haven't run into that much. We have problems with the data than we do with the OAC portion of this.
Okay, a couple other quick questions. A few more questions are kind of popping in here. One, hi team, could you confirm some particular OAC cloud access to try on Oracle internal data projects? I think that's more of an Oracle internal kind of issue.
Could be.
So, so maybe any product managers or on the Oracle people that are on this call could respond to that.
Okay.
The next one is best approach to connect on-premise data with OAC. What's the best approach?
So within the data capability, this is what we like to call a hybrid implementation. With that, you would use the Oracle connector, the remote data gateway, to connect up to an on-prem environment, and it actually just happens very nicely. Now you need a fast enough pipe to move the data, and that works out very well. Now don't try and move 10 million records across the pipe. That's going to take too long. But that's why the software is engineered such that when you are using the interface on the Oracle Cloud, you're actually using a fancy interface to ultimately generate a SQL statement. It's that SQL statement that's sent down to the database tier that's on your on-prem database. And then the results of that, which may be only, let's say, a screen worth of information is only 100 records, has to come up the pipe back to the cloud and then present to the data, present to the analytics server. What becomes an issue is if you try to create a visualization that has, let's say, 1 million records, 2 million records, and you're trying to flow that across the pipe, that's not going to work so well. But you really should not be creating visualizations that are that big anyway, because who's going to scroll through that many? You should be looking at top 10, top 1,000, something like that, and scroll through that. So that's where you run into it.
That sounds like almost a topic for another TechCast, which reminds me more about this stage is to suggest to everyone that's listening to this call that, to give our sort of, and then we'll take one more question. But as we sort of start to wrap up here, the idea of these TechCasts is that everyone has knowledge, expertise, tips, and tricks to share, and they're all encouraged to submit TechCast abstract proposals. Oracle people included, partners, especially customers who are out there using this. So please think about submitting a TechCast and sharing all your expertise with everyone else. I think we got time maybe for one last question that I'm seeing here. This is, the question goes, security-wise, can a user view a subject area in the RPD if they don't see a catalog folder in Analytics that contains the subject area?
So let me try and parse that. Can the user view a subject area in the RPD if they don't see a catalog folder in Analytics? I don't know why you would see the catalog folder. I believe those are integrated and they will not appear, but maybe it's that if there's a subject area, I don't know enough about the question to try and answer that.
Okay.
I can go multiple ways with that. One of the things there was the question on cloud access to try and Oracle projects. If the question was related to how can I try this out, just be aware Oracle has a very liberal policy for a 30-day trial. You can just Google Oracle Cloud Trial, and you can get a OAC instance for you to try this stuff out yourself. on that, and you know, actually go in and start using it. Just be aware that clock starts ticking when you start the instance. So we do hear some people that say, yeah, I requested the trial, but then things got busy. Be ready to be serious about it when you request the trial, because that clock does start ticking, and then you can continue on. But it's actually pretty cool to use this stuff, and a lot of fun to use the software. I did put some links in here. If you want further information, you can download the presentation and look at these links. Go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, I was just going to say on the autonomous database side, which I know a little bit better, with Larry Ellison's announcement, it's the always free tier, so you can go in there, and as long as you're using it, I know I signed up for it. It took me like 3 minutes to sign up, and then I didn't get back to it, and I got a notification. We're going to terminate your thing unless you start using it again, but that's on the autonomous database side, which allows me to kind of wrap up and say next week's, in 2 weeks from now on November 21st, I'll actually be the presenter. I'll be talking about the changing role of the DBA from database developer to data scientist in 6 weeks, and we'll focus on the autonomous database there. Again, thank you to our two great speakers, and thank you, everyone. We will stop this webinar, the TechCast, and stop recording now, and we'll post this out on the same website, and we'll also put it out on YouTube along with the slides. Thank you, everyone, for attending this TechCast.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.